Can you believe it's been 18 years since 9/11 happened?
That is so crazy.
Yeah, I remember that morning because I was rushing on the way to work. We were living together.
Yes. I think you were headed to work.
Left the house, turned on the radio, and I heard this crazy thing on the radio, and it sounded like, I don't know, some sort of fiction show that was playing, and it was talking about this airplane that had hit a building. And about that time, you called me and said, "This is on television in the World Trade Center." It was a crazy day for me.
See, and that's so funny because I remember it completely different. I remember you calling me.
Did I call you?
And saying, "Turn on the TV now." And pretty much almost hanging up on me. Like, turn on the TV now, something's happened, and hanging up.
Well, maybe that's how it happened.
It's funny how that works.
Today's word is stupendous.
You need some encouragement.
We really love listening to you guys.
You need some inspiration.
Love your podcast. Wonderfully inspiring as I think about my marriage.
Stupendous marriage encouragement.
You're listening to the Stupendous Marriage Show.
Hey there, I'm Stu Gray.
Hey, I'm Lisa Gray.
This is the Stupendous Marriage Show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. This show is found by other married couples when you leave a rating and a review at Apple Podcasts, and we certainly would appreciate that.
All you do is go into your podcast app, which is usually an Apple app, and if you click on our show, scroll down to the bottom, and it literally says write a review. And you just click on that write a review right there. It'll open up another window, let you write it and submit it, and we would so appreciate it if you took a second and did that today.
And the other thing, our stupendous question. We would love to hear from you. A lot of times we answer questions on our podcast, but here's our question to you. What's the worst date you've ever gone on with your spouse?
Ooh, that's I don't know, some people might not want to share that.
We want to hear from you. 1-615-592-1060. And we're excited to play some of these stupendous answers on an upcoming show.
Babe, I don't think I've ever had a bad date with you.
You lie, you lie, you lie. I'm horrible at dates. I'm horrible at planning dates. I'm horrible about thinking through them. I'm horrible about dinner. That's a daily occurrence.
True. Well, and it doesn't have to be like horrendous, somebody dies kind of date. It can just be something that maybe timing didn't work out or expectations weren't met. Whatever it is in your world that you look back at that and think, man, that was not a very good date. We would love to hear about it.
Back to 9/11, today is the 18th anniversary of that happening in America, and it's crazy that it's been so long. I mean, we have a 14-year-old. It's crazy that, 4 years before he was born, this thing happened. He didn't ever experienced that, but he knows about it. Like, it's in his consciousness as a human being.
Well, last year, I got to judge a project. It's called National History Day at our son's school. And these girls did a project talking about 9/11. And I was talking to them. And at the time, they were 8th graders. And I was like, obviously, you weren't born when this happened. Do you remember anything about it or know anything about it? And so they said, honestly, before they had started their project, they had no idea. They just kind of heard a reference, 9/11, some planes, hit some buildings, and that was it. When they started doing this research and found out everything that happened, they both said, man, it changed their world. Like, they'll never think about it differently. Even though they weren't alive when it happened, they now feel like they were. They feel like they had firsthand knowledge of what people went through. They talked to some survivors and families of survivors and families of victims, and they just said it rocked their world.
I saw this post on social media float by that was talking about how we should remember how united we were, and we should use that as a model going forward for how to treat people. Because after 9/11, we were so united as a country. We were so together. And not that we want something horrible to happen again. And why does it always take something horrible to happen for us to stand united? But we should use that as a model going forward to love and respect and stand together in unity with our family members and our friends in our country and around the globe.
Well, and unfortunately, we have an election next year.
Yeah.
So if you aren't feeling uncomfortable now on social media in the next 6 months, 12 months, it's going to be rough.
We have a question for the show today, and we always love getting those at onair@stupendousmarriage.com. That is coming up. Our email for today. My husband had been at his job for 10 years. I stayed at home with our children. Once they started school, I went to college and graduated. I started my first full-time job to help my husband out financially. Only 2 weeks after I started my job, my husband quit his job. I know he hated it, but he went about it the wrong way. He kept it a secret for a week and would pretend he was going to work. He cashed out his 401k, and we had to use it to pay bills while he looked for another job. He job hopped for 9 months. He now has a job he's been in for 6 months, but he makes only a fraction of what he used to make. I now have the bulk load of the bills to pay. How do I stop being so bitter and angry so that we can move forward in our marriage? Thanks for your thoughts.
What a difficult situation. I think anytime in a marriage that you are hiding things from your spouse, a red flag should go off in your head saying, don't do it, because you're just asking for trouble. I mean, you are just asking for trouble when you do that. No matter the circumstances, you got to grow up and go, I need to talk to you about this. We have a problem, and not hide it. And so I can understand completely why she's bitter and upset with him. Even now, it sounds like a year and a half later.
I definitely think he went about it incorrectly. I think keeping it a secret was a problem. I think him jumping out of his job right away is a problem. Obviously, there's communication that did not happen between the two of you and expectations on both sides of what happened after you got your degree and got your job and what he wanted to do with his job. There was obviously clunky backfires, misfires of your talking to one another and trying to figure out what you wanted to do together. I mean, marriage is a two-way street. Did you guys sit down before you decided to take a job? Did you sit down before he quit his job? Was this on your radar at all? Why didn't you know anything was going on? Because it just seems like you were blindsided. So where in the communication process was the missed? I mean, this is a big deal. Obviously, it's a big deal for him to keep it a secret and to hide it. So he's obviously got an issue there too, you know, trying to hide something, trying to pretend everything's okay. And that then it just snowballs out of control, obviously, and you have to deal with the 401k and paying the bills. There was something in here that really kind of bugged me, and it's kind of the I and him attitude. It's, what was it? I now have the bulk load of the bills to pay. I have that. If you're married, we view marriage as one. We're becoming one flesh. And so it's not I have the bulk of the bills to pay. You might be bringing in the income, but it's still we. And you may be resentful and upset and hurt and bitter, but it is still we that is doing this thing. You may be providing the income for this season. And yes, the big thing that we need to work on here is forgiveness, because forgiveness is hard to do, but you holding on to bitterness and anger is only going to make you even more upset and more angry. And how do you forgive? Every day, little by little.
Yeah, you know, the Bible says, how many times should I forgive? What is it, 70 times 7? You know, it's like endless is basically what Jesus said. And honestly, it's funny that you said that, because the thing that highlighted to me when you read it through was similar. When she said, I started my first full-time job to help my husband out financially. Well, you weren't helping your husband out financially. You were helping your family unit. You were stepping in for a season and working where you had not been working for a season, and he had carried the load. So I don't want to beat you up here, because you have every right to be upset. Yes, he made some poor choices, but your question to us is, how can I stop being so bitter and angry? And I think besides forgiving him for what he's done, I think taking accountability of your responsibility in the process. So I'll kind of disagree with you a little bit, Stu, in what you said earlier. You know, I don't think it was necessarily her fault that she didn't know he was going to up and quit his job. I think that was kind of deceptive on his part.
Well, I don't think it was her fault. I just think both together they didn't speak about it well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and they probably had no goals. Like, okay, hey, you're going to go to school for this season, and then when you graduate, maybe I want to go back to school. Maybe I want to try to find a different job because I don't like this one. Whatever the case may be, they really didn't have that conversation, unfortunately. And then now she's kind of got this mindset, it seems like by her email, that it is a I and a him and not a we. The fact is, he carried the load for a season, and now you may be carrying a load for the season. And that is what marriage is about. I mean, I know a lot of couples who do this very similar scenario where one is in school or aspiring to build their business and the other one is carrying most of the load of the bills, and then it swaps. And that's very common in marriage. So really accepting that and realizing, hey, wait, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's a privilege that I can do this and work and help him. But definitely having a plan, having a conversation to be able to say, okay, babe, you've now started this other job. You've been at 6 months. Your pay has decreased. What can we do to get your pay back up? What can we do so that I don't feel like I'm carrying the burden financially of all the bills to where it can be a little more even again?
One resource I wanted to mention from Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love. If he's still not happy in the job that he has, if he is underemployed, Dan has a great program that you can go through, a great book to go through. He's a great coach. You should listen to his podcast, the 48 Days podcast. Tons of ideas for off the wall and cool and different job opportunities and things to do if you're entrepreneur spirit, or even if you just want to change the work that you do in a company. Dan has a brilliant mind for business and helping others in business and find great jobs. So that might be a resource that you want to check out. We'll definitely put that in the show notes too, 48days.com.
I know you've really enjoyed reading his resources, and hopefully they may enjoy reading it together and even might have a different mindset in the fact of, hey, let's go on this adventure together. You know, babe, maybe you're not happy where you are. I may not be happy, she may not be happy where she is. How do we work together, again, to have goals and to have a place that you're going instead of life just happening to you? And that kind of sounds like that what happened to begin with. He probably up and quit his job over a moment and anger, and then he went, oh crap, what do I do now? And reacted poorly for a week, and then all of a sudden had to rebound. And so I would assume it probably wasn't a malicious thing that he meant to do. It just kind of happened. And so giving him grace and understanding that we all make mistakes, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that he would do it again. Just understanding that you've got to get to the place of forgiveness, not just for him, but for yourself, so that you're not carrying that bitterness, especially as you go to work every day.
Ruth Bell Graham said, a marriage is made of two good forgivers. And it's just true. Through life, we're going to get hurt. And we're also going to have good days, but we're also going to have days where we say things wrong, we do things wrong, and we intentionally or unintentionally hurt our spouse. So for you, forgiveness is a big deal. It's a different process for everybody, but I do believe there is some acceptance of where you are right now that needs to happen. Because this is the situation, this is your life that you've been dealt, this is where you are, and there needs to be an honest look at it. Like, hey, I'm here, and this is where we are, and I don't like this that's happened, and I'm not necessarily happy with the job and all that sort of stuff, but this is where we are. This is my acceptance of where we are. Now, my hurt feelings, what is behind the hurt? Is it because of the lie? Is it because he quit his job? If you can narrow it down to what the thing is that's really causing the hurt, it may not be the thing that you think it is. Get down behind the hurt. Well, why does that make me upset? Well, why am I upset about that? Why am I upset? So if you really look down into it, I'm saying you need to look into yourself, because there's obviously a trigger button here that's been hit. And the thing you're mad about may not be the thing you're mad about.
At least that's our world oftentimes, right, babe?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing you have to remember is it's all about perspective. How amazing is it that you are able to work and provide for the family? How amazing is it that he had a 401k to support your family for a season? How amazing is it that he has another job where he is working and hopefully enjoying? Like, it's all perspective. It's remembering and focusing on the positive things and the blessings that we have that really enable us to get past the negativity. And so I would encourage her to maybe take some time journaling and processing through the hurt, but then also remembering the positives, the wonderful things I'm sure he does do well and has done well in the past, and not continuing to just focus on that negative time.
3 places to forgive. 1, your husband, obviously, for the things that he did, the decisions he made, the actions he took. 2, this one will surprise you, forgive yourself. because you're holding on to things here that you might not need to be holding on to. If you've looked down under the thing that you think is making you angry and you found something in yourself, you need to forgive yourself for that. 3, you need to forgive God. A lot of times it's like, God did this to me. This is horrible. Why would this happen? And it happens in worse situations than this. And we got to remember that God is on our side, is for us, drawing us forward. And there are hard times in life. Life is hard. And you've got to let yourself off the hook. You let your husband off the hook and God off the hook. We certainly appreciate the email. If you've got thoughts about this, on air at stupendousmarriage.com, or if you have a question that you want to ask, we would love to talk about it on the show.
Talk to you next time.
See ya.